In what ways does your neurodiverse condition interact with other aspects of your identity? Examples include race, gender, culture, sexuality, or other physical or mental disabilities.
I am polyamorous. And I've noticed a lot of other people in the polyamorous community tend to be neurodiverse in some way. And so I can imagine maybe something to do with the stimulus of multiple relationships is related to how my brain works.
What would an ideal school or work environment look like for you as a neurodivergent person?
I would say very structured. So like I am great when given confines to work in how I want to work. So like, for example, I have a professor who gives us like 5 different options to do things and then like expects a certain thing. So I get all of these options, but it's still structured. I have to do a lot of extra work to make sure that I'm understanding exactly what's being asked of me. So it's something that I think about all the time. But yeah, so clarity, structure, like those are the things that would be ideal for me. It's not that I don't like having like freedom of expression. It's more that there's still an expectation with freedom of expression. And a lot of times I feel like a work environment or a school environment leaves things very open. There's still an expectation. They're just expecting you to meet that expectation without giving you the structure to be certain you're going in the direction they expect. And so I like clarity and I like structure.
When you're talking about how you kind of need a lot of clarity and structure, do you think that your personal needs for that in terms of like writing assignments or just communication make you like a better communicator or a better writer when it comes to like your job at the writing center?
I definitely think I'm a great communicator just in general. I will be overly clear many times before I will not be clear about something. Usually, occasionally, there will be something in my brain that I think I've said or that I think is expressed that's not just because, like I'm working on a different wavelength than people around me. But generally, I think it makes me a better writer and a better communicator.
How do you perceive neurotypical brains to work, and how would you describe the way your own brain works by comparison?
It feels like the pathways in my brain connect at different speeds all the time. Like they either click in real fast or like it takes me, 5 minutes to get to where I'm going. There are plenty of people I know with ADHD and their ADHD manifests very differently. Like I know some people who are amazing at multitasking because they can just be zoned in at so many different things all the time. And with me, I'm very much more a hyper focused person. Like I am on one thing, and that is the thing I am on. In class earlier today, there was another student who was trying to discuss the problem before I'd done the problem. And I was trying to do the problem, and they were talking to me while I was trying to do the problem. And I like asking me questions about it. And I was like, I haven't done the problem yet. Like I can't think, I can't process what you're saying to me and do the work at the same time. Like I have ADHD. Like I can't do both things at once right now. So I would say my brain definitely tends to be more hyper focused and more sort of one thing at a time, very intently, and does not process other things well at the same time. Like with the auditory thing, like someone will be speaking to me, and very frequently someone will say something and I'll ask them what they said, and then about 10 seconds later it'll process and register for me as they're explaining to me what they had said. If I go out and like do something with a friend, I'm in social mode. If I come back and like try and do schoolwork, I can't click back out of social mode. Like I can't focus in on schoolwork. So that's another thing I think about being on campus that helps me is I'm in that zone of like, this is where I'm learning. This is where I'm doing the learning. And so my brain clicks back into like those learning processes.
If you resonate with this concept, what does neurodivergent joy look like to you?
I've noticed humor. What really amuses neurodiverse people tends to be very interestingly different from what tends to amuse neurotypical people from what I've noticed. Like I'll make a joke and like I'll have a friend who's, ADHD or autistic and like they'll find it hilarious because they get my humor. And then I'll have a friend who's neurotypical and they're very confused what I'm talking about. And like I also feel like um kind of like if you think about like memes, like there are a lot of memes that like just people don't understand why they're funny, but I feel like neurodiverse people really enjoy memes. Like we just get it.
If you are formally diagnosed, how did diagnosis change your outlook on yourself or your life?
I was formally diagnosed as like a child. So like it's always kind of been from a young age just part of how I understood myself. Understanding what that meant has been like a process because you're just, especially like when I was diagnosed, because I'm 30, like you were just kind of told you had ADHD and you either had the hyperactive kind or you didn't, and that was it. There's a lot of stuff I've learned over time about like um how that can manifest for people, and like just sort of more things about like executive dysfunction and stuff like that I was never really told about. I was just like told, you have these issues focusing, here, have some medication. And I'm like, you know, it works. But yeah, so it's actually been kind of later in life when I've thought about it more, and like it's strange to me the fact that things that are so difficult for me are so simple for other people, and just like, but I guess kind of in a way, like I appreciate that. Like I put so much more energy into everything I do, and I feel like that's something admirable, you know? So I look at myself as someone who has to maybe deal with more, but has to grow more because of that. And I like that.
If you could change one societal expectation, what would it be and why?
The idea of laziness, like the idea that people don't do things just because like they don't care. They're just something defective about them. Like the more we know about like neuroscience, the more we know like there's a physiological reason why these people aren't doing things, and it's not because like they just don't care. I mean, it might be because they don't care, but they don't care because there's something going on in their brains. So I guess the idea that not being constantly productive in a way that makes you money is being lazy, or that having something to show productiveness is necessary to be a good functional human being.
How have you reconfigured your own life in unique ways to suit your learning, emotional, sensory, or other needs?
I have like a system in place. I know that I can't focus at night. So like I don't do any work at night if I can avoid it. I do all of my work on the weekends and on Mondays before my classes for the week, because I have really busy days. Like I'm there from like 10 to 6 Tuesdays, Thursdays, 9:30 to 5 Wednesday, and then 10 to 3 on Friday. So like Friday is the only day where I have like any afternoon time to do work. So like I do all of my work that I can ahead of time, and like that also gives me time for like days where I'm having trouble focusing, or like periods where I'm having trouble focusing, and then I can go back when I'm able to better focus and work on stuff again. Um, I definitely I like to park in the same spot whenever I can, and like I very much like repetition in some things, which is a lot of ADHD people I know don't like repetition. Like they like stuff that's constantly changing and like stimulating. And for me, I like one stimulus and then like everything else the same. And that's just how it works for me. And I actually interviewed for a job recently, and they were talking about how like what you're doing every day changes. And I'm like, well, that could be a challenge, or that could be a fun challenge, but like, are there clear rules on like what's expected to be done? Or am I going to come in to the lab and it's going to be like, um, you need to prepare for this lab. Here's like some very brief instructions, like get to it. And like, am I going to need to parse that out? I don't want that, you know? So
Yeah, and when it comes to those like little things like parking spot too, it's just like I feel like it depletes a little bit of your HP every time like you have to reconfigure. It's like, oh, where did I
yeah,
park? Or like where is that thing? And especially in the lab when it's like a reagent is in a different place, it's like I'm okay with this, but my
Mhm.
brain my brain
Right.
energy is being used up a little bit every time.
I think that's part of what it is. It's like, um, it takes so much more energy for new connections sometimes that like just having only one thing where like I have to reprocess is really helpful. Yeah. I keep a thorough planner of like all important things. I have so many alerts on my phone that it is insane. You know what I do that helps me? Okay, so I have to make sure I have food at the beginning of the week. So I do a grocery order online. So I figure out everything I'm going to eat for the week and have that ordered. And then like there is food in the house and like there are things to make food. So like because if I have to also get myself out of the house to go to the grocery store, go into the grocery store, pick things out. Also, I have ADHD. I go into a grocery store, I see candy and I'm like, hell yeah. So like, that way I'm avoiding the temptation of like getting three different kinds of chocolate that I don't need. Because I mean, again, my dopamine receptors are broken. If you show me chocolate, I'm really happy.
What is a common misconception surrounding your disability or disabilities that you wish more people understood?
I want to be doing a million things at once, or like the idea that like I'm supposed to have like all of this craziness going around, and that's just how ADHD works. Because like that is not how it works for me. Like I wish that would be really fun to like be able to do like 15 things at once and like be super excited about lots of things all the time. But it's not. I can do one thing at once. you know.
What are little tweaks you wish people could make when talking about neurodiversity or disability in general?
Well, see, I really like that sentence because you treat neurodiversity as a disability, which I appreciate because it is like, and that's not a bad thing and that's not a negative. ADHD makes some things harder, and that doesn't necessarily mean that people are lesser. And like the idea that like being disabled makes someone lesser, like the narrative around like what ADHD is, what neurodiversity is, and just kind of treating yourself gently and like recognizing that like everyone works differently and you deserve to be nurtured in the way everyone else is, and, like, treated with that thought in mind, like the way you function is the way you function, and it's not bad or good, it's just how you are.